You're watching Keeping It Real. Great to be back. I'm David Grossman. We have with us here Randy Mcdonald from Heresy Email Services. Randy, welcome. Thanks very much for coming into Toronto.
Thanks for having me.
To be here. Really appreciate it. So Randy is an email service provider, but he is not like any other email service provider. Like the name says, he's breaking the rules. Or I'm not too sure. Like, let's find out what the story is, because I hear something different from everybody I talk to about what's allowed, what's not allowed. Randy's been doing this for a while, and I can tell you that so many of the people that come into the studio here, people who are servicing the real estate industry, are using his service, and they speak very highly about what he does. So welcome, Randy, first of all. Please tell us, what is orthodox real estate email marketing all about?
Well, I'm actually unorthodox, if you want to know.
Unorthodox, okay. I should say. Thank you.
Well, I think to put in perspective, I'm going to give you just a very brief history of how email marketing has evolved since the internet began. When the internet began, there was no such thing as opt-in email. It was all pretty much bulk email. And people, you get these aggressive entrepreneurs, and they just went hog wild. They said, okay, we've never seen anything like this. All of a sudden, we can email people, millions of people for next to nothing. Are you kidding? And so it was just sort of a Pandora's box from there. Obviously, this pissed off a lot of people, because you had this rise of, just think of going to your mailbox outside every day and finding it just stuffed with flyers and having to have 4 recycling bins to get rid of it every day.
Which is still the case.
Yeah, well, not to the same extent. Yeah. I mean, but so everyone just said, whoa, wait a minute, this is a problem. We're getting too much. It's not targeted. I'm getting everything from Viagra to dog walking services to Star Trek conventions. This is annoying. Yes. And so what happened is that the nascent sort of email marketing industries decided, okay, we're going to do everything the complete opposite of spam. We're going to essentially, we're going to transfer the power from the marketer to the marketed to. Right. So in other words, if you want to market it to me as a consumer, you have to have my consent. Okay, that was previously the marketers saying, we're going to just advertise to anyone, whoever I want, as much as I want, no opt-in, opt-out, and you got to take it. So that was the key shift. And so that's been the rule of the roost since then, since about the late 90s. And so now that has been sort of, these guys have come along and said, okay, well, it's going to be only opt-in email marketing, and that's the only way you can do it.
Okay, so opt-in means that a consumer or recipient has given his or her express approval. That's for some company to send emails. Is that right? That's basically what opt-in is.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a contract that if I ask for your permission, or if I have a website and I say, David, I want you to sign up for my mailing list or whatever it is, then you fill out a form, and then I have explicit proof that this person from this IP address, etc., sign up for my mailing list, and then if anyone ever calls me on that, I've got proof. Okay, right. And that's essentially permission-based marketing.
Okay, so now you talk about on your website something called opt-out. So what is opt-out?
Well, opt-out is what I call the middle way. I use some of these sort of religious terms in heresy, and middle way is actually a concept in Buddhism, which is one extreme of living between an ascetic monk-style lifestyle and, I guess you might say, the playboy lifestyle, where the extremes. The middle way is right in between those two extremes. With targeted email or opt-out, what we advocate is a bit of both opt-in side of the coin and the bulk mass email side of the coin. We say that a targeted prospect is a targeted prospect, no matter how you get them. So if I go and buy a list of real estate agents, or I get them from the web, or however I do it, that's still a legitimate list. And there might be, 20,000 people in there, you know, but that's fine. Now, where we are like the opt-in people is that we will email them, and if they don't want to receive our emails, no problem. We'll take them off their list, our list. They'll never hear from us again, period.
So there's like an unsubscribe button or something.
Yeah, we've got that, and we meticulously maintain that for ourselves and our clients. But the key thing is your ability to list to build your list. If you're using opt-in marketing only, the only way that you can build your list is through advertising. So, for instance, these people that were just here, Pamela and Michael, about the business exchange. Say you had an ad in there saying, you know, I'm selling a property, or here's my services, or so forth. You know, it could be your website. You know, you've got some ranking in Google, or you're doing pay-per-click, whatever. You have to use at least one other type of advertising to build your opt-in list. And I can testify that doing that is very expensive. You have to pay per click. For instance, I've done, you know, you're looking at least, you know, $1 or $2 I've found to get per thing, right? So it's far cheaper and far less time, you know, a whole bunch of little advantages to buying a list outright. Now, there's some caveats there, but that's the key advantage of the way I advocate, is that you can build your list of prospects so much faster, and therefore make things happen more for your business.
Right. So now I recall you telling me, you know, when you first got into this, people were saying, oh no, you shouldn't go in this direction. But you built a very successful business, and it seems to me that a lot of industry leaders are in fact using your service.
More and more. I mean, it's often what I find is that the people that want to work with me have already done it a little bit themselves. Like, for instance, people like Gary have trade show booths a lot of the time, and they're collecting business cards of people that come to their booth. And over time, with a lot of trade shows, that can wind up being several hundred people. So you email those people regularly, and you see that you've got a good response relative to the price to do it. And so a lot of customers will come to me at that point and say, okay, yeah, we've got a proof of concept of, you know, for email marketing. We find it works for us, so we want to take it to the next level. We want to go from add a couple of zeros to the size of our database,
right,
and go from there. That's how usually it starts. But because the email marketing industry is so overwhelmingly that type of person that says opt-in and all of these sort of things that are about that, and very worried about the law and things like that, there's a whole sort of illusion of what you can do and what you can't do. A lot of misunderstanding. Like, for instance, some people think that because these, you know, Constant Contacts and the MailChimps, they say, oh, we can only use opt-in lists. A lot of people think, well, using anything but that is illegal.
Right.
So there's a whole mountain of misinformation out there in the consumers' minds, and quite frankly, I'm quite happy that with the way things are. If I was to go out and sort of start evangelizing and saying, you know, here's, you know, all the great things about targeted email and you should do it, I'd be building myself a lot of competition.
Right.
So I'm kind of content to keep quiet.
Okay. So now I understand there's some pending legislation called Canadian Anti-Spam Bill C-28, Fighting Internet and Wireless Spam. What is this all about, and what are you doing? And there's by the way, we're going to put up a website too, because you've created this website, stopfisanow.com. So tell us what's the story on this.
Well, Canada is the only country of the G8 nations that has not put in any sort of formal law about any sort of internet communications. Okay. And that's been seen as like a real omission in terms of, you know, our legal system. So they've been trying to put through for years through something like the CAN-SPAM Act, which is the email law that governs the United States. Which is I completely am adherence with, and I feel is good. All the CAN-SPAM essentially says is that you have to be honest about what you're doing. You know, honest subject lines. Like, don't be like spammers. Have honest subject lines. You know, don't lie. Put your real address in there, etc. Just good business practices, right? So essentially, Canada's law has adopted this new pending Bill C-28 or FISA. Which stands for Fighting Internet and Wireless Spam Act. And what this law is intended to do is increase consumer confidence in using e-commerce. Okay, a lot of people still are skittish about giving out their credit card or their debit card or whatever over the internet, and so Canada, the laws, the powers that be, they want to facilitate. They want to get people doing that using e-commerce, encouraging. It's so easy to start up a business nowadays with just a couple $100 and a website. And so. So anyways, what the email marketing industry has done, the opt-in people, is that they've influenced the process of this legislation such that they've added in a big amendment that's found in no other email law anywhere, saying that all commercial email must be opt-in. Okay. So in other words, all of my clients that have got their and big fines too, $1 million for personal people, an individual who breaks this law, and $10 million fine from CRTC for businesses that breach this law. So any of the people out there that have, trade show booths and are using, even a few hundred people that put a, let's say you have a booth at whatever given trade show, and you've got a little fishbowl for saying, put your business card here and for an iPhone draw, that sort of thing.
Which everybody does.
Right.
Sure.
And so technically you're on the hook that if you emailed any of those people and they couldn't remember who you were and they emailed to the CRTC, you potentially would be on the hook for a fine of up to $10 million for something as innocent as that.
Really? Wow.
So that is the big thing. Now, and so it's gonna, if this law gets put into place, right now it's been sort of had what's called royal assent and a few things. It's on the books, but it just isn't being enforced yet. There's a few things that they have to get in place.
You think it's gonna go?
Well, it's been pushed back time after time after time, where they've said, okay, we're going to start enforcing at this date, and then it gets pushed back another quarter, another 6 months. Right now, they're saying mid 2013 is when it's going. I mean, it just keeps pushed back because I think
people are like yourself are lobbying against it.
I think that kind of people are starting to say kind of cooler heads are prevailing here, and some people are looking at it from outside perspective and saying, well, what's wrong with just having your own little database and mailing a few people that you've got content and doing an opt-out sort of thing? I really truly believe that the email marketing industry as is completely upside down, and the lunatics are running the asylum. So what I'm trying to do is organize a lobbying effort where we're saying, let's recognize the legitimacy of responsible mailing, where you're doing an opt-out process, where you're buying lists that are just targeted for your type of prospects. If you have a mortgage business, don't start advertising it to people in Africa. You know what I mean? No one's going to buy it anyway. So I'm just advocating effective policies.
Right.
Really.
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly there'd be no point in emailing people in Africa, but if I'm online using things like search engine tools, I don't know. I think you can, even using SEO, limit the countries that you're advertising, you're reaching out to. But that's different because people are finding you when you're using SEO. Yeah.
One of the biggest problems with people in the conventional email marketing industry is that they've never tried what I advocate, and so you get them all saying, "Oh, it doesn't work," and they have all manner of reasons. I mean, the way that I got into email marketing, it was very organic from the beginning. It came from a personal need. Like when I started university back in 1993, they already had internet. They already had little terminals, and we had email. It looked like texting in those days. And what I did is, I remember like back in the mid 90s, I started getting into reselling of tickets, basically being a ticket broker to sort of make money while I was a student. And I remember I had a bunch of U2 tickets for a hot show at the time, and what I did is I went and found a bunch of U2 fan sites, and they had guest books where people could sign in and say, oh, I love U2, I love Bono, etc. Right, and they would leave their email addresses.
Right.
So I would go on there and I would grab all the email addresses of all the U2 fans. They could be anywhere in the world, and I would create a little text-based mailing, and I'd create a whole bunch of little Hotmail accounts to do it. And long and the short of it is, I was getting clients like that. Like I remember I went to one show where I bought the tickets for. And I had I bought 5 tickets, and I had 4 clients. There was myself there. On one side of me is a guy that came from Germany just to see the show, because the particular band was never coming to Germany that often. So he had flown in just for that show. And I had on the other side of me a friend and 2 people from Massachusetts that had come up for the show, right? So that was the first time it really worked for me. And then when I was out of university and looking for a job, I sat down at one point and I took about 3 weeks and I said, okay, I'm going to kind of ignore all the job postings out there and I'm just going to go and try and find email addresses of any sort of company that is looking for like an inside sales position or a technical writer. So I spent about 3 weeks in the computer lab at the university just going through page after page very manually, like copy and paste, copy and paste. And I think after about 3 weeks, I got about 3,000 emails. And then I started blasting my resume out through, again, Hotmail. I created a whole bunch of Hotmail accounts so, I could do it. And, I wound up getting interviews, unsolicited. I mean, there's a whole hidden job market thing that people know about. And, so that helped me get a job.
Right.
And then, even just one more little anecdote. I had this old Led Zeppelin box set that I wanted to get rid of. It was a bootleg one, and I no longer wanted it. So I went onto eBay, and I found all the people that were selling Led Zeppelin-related materials of any kind, right? And I grabbed all their email addresses. It was about 1,000. And I emailed them all and said, here's my auction on this box set. Come check it out. And I wound up selling it for twice what I paid for the damn thing.
Nice.
So, that's really how I got into this whole thing is I kind of proved it to myself that it worked for me on both a personal and business level.
Right.
And from then I just took it to, further and further.
Well, congratulations. I mean, it's very industrious. And, in my opinion, and maybe not everybody's going to agree, but I think that the people we have to worry about are people that are, sending out phishing emails, scamming emails. Oh, sign in to change your Rogers account or your Bank of Montreal account or this, that, and the other because they're trying to get your personal information. So those are the people that we really need to watch out for. You're clearly sending out targeted emails and things of value. And if they weren't, then people would not be responding the way that they have to you from the very beginning, whether it was looking for a job or selling U2 tickets, and now dealing with some of the industry leaders offering these services to the real estate industry. So I say congratulations to you for doing that. And that website, so people will be able to go to stopvisanow.com. And soon it will be active, and they can sign a petition or something.
Well, I'm looking to inform people there about what it is that this legislation is going to be, how it will affect Canadian businesses, and why they should care, and we're going to have an online petition where people will have to be, put in their real name and business name. We don't want a bunch of people putting bogus information in. I'll just add one more little thing about this FISA law. What you're saying about it, it's purported intention to get rid of all the spamming, all the the scamming sort of stuff. I fail to see how this law will get rid of any of that.
Right.
So really, it's a law that's going to try and throw out the baby with the bathwater. Right. But really, it's just throwing out the baby, and the bathwater still be there.
Right. Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your insights, Randy, for coming to the studio today. Randy Mcdonald, president of Heresy Email Services, heresyemail.com. If you need help with your real estate emailing broadcast, give Randy a call. He knows what he's doing for sure. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking with Gary Nuska, another champion, a man who has really pushed the envelope and has created this incredible website, iciworld.net, and there's a host of other extensions, .ca. This is a global tool for people to connect their real estate haves and wants, and it works. And I can tell you that because I'm on it as a mortgage broker, and now I'm working on a $3 million deal, having signed up the next day. So it works. We're going to be back in just a minute. Hang in there.